That means when UNHCR thinking about the third country resettlement, these are 6 criteria that they need to determine if the case is actually for resettlement. That means if somebody needs legal or protection, survivors of torture or violence, medical needs, usually children and women and girls at risk. And the last category is family reunification. We at the agency actually worked with all 6 categories of resettlement. This is a priority system that UNHCR actually put down as a process of processing refugees. That means, for example, I flee the war in Bosnia and I actually went and reported myself to UNHCR and asked for resettlement in a third country because I could not go back. Sometimes, in a case, for example, we had a whole Bhutanese community that was placed in Nepal, never recognized by Bhutan. They were just in a process in Nepal, and the whole group was recognized as refugees. That's actually that group referrals. That means nobody, if you go in the group referral, when you go to on the interview with UNHCR, you actually have to say, okay, I have a father, mother, sister, they are part of my family, or this is the group that was placed in the secondary country, but nobody else can be resettled. That means if somebody comes after like 5 years, some far cousin from Bhutan in Nepal, because in the first time when UNHCR actually decided and dedicated this group as a refugees, that person was not included. That means that person will not be resettled in a third country. And then the family reunification usually happens when one part of the family comes. We had situations where parents were resettled and I actually talked to my husband the one case today. I had a client who came to apply for his daughter, who was at the time when they separated was 11 years old. She was in school, and when whatever happened in the place where they lived, the teachers actually took all the children from the school on the one side, and the rest of the place went on another side to be saved. And it took, actually she's still in Africa, but 14 years for them to actually be able to hear that she's alive and they're alive. And actually how it happened, they were moving from one refugee camp to another. Finally, they were recognized for resettlement. They resettled, and after a year of their resettlement to the United States, their daughter was placed in the same camp that they were. And actually the neighbor, who was neighbor of her parents, in conversation they were talking, and somehow she mentioned her last name, and it's very rare. And that guy asked, okay, do you know this and this person? And that's how actually after 14 years the family learned that she survived, and she learned that her parents and the rest of sisters and brothers were actually resettled in the United States. And now we are in the process applying for her to come, and it will take probably years because right now she's 25 years old. When refugees come to United States, they actually, and this program is a program that is designed by Department of State. They have a right to apply for their spouses, their children under 21, and they have a right to apply for their parents. But in order for this application, family members needs to be refugees also. That means if somebody comes and the rest of the family stayed in a country of origin, this application is not applicable to them. They cannot apply to bring their family members because the family members need to be refugees in a second country in order to apply. This is a very hard, actually, statistics of this year. Over 65 million people are displaced worldwide, and this is the biggest number ever. Usually, refugees, there are 21 million. I said less than 1% is eligible for resettlement in different countries. And the United States is not the only country to resettle refugees. This is a list of the countries that resettle refugees: Argentina, Brazil, Canada, Denmark, Finland, Hungary, Ireland, Japan, New Zealand, Paraguay, Romania, Sweden, Czech Republic, Australia, Bulgaria, Chile, Germany, Iceland, Italy, Netherlands, Norway, Portugal, Spain, United Kingdom, Uruguay, and United States. United States is the biggest program, and then other two programs behind are actually Australia and Canada. There is a very interesting statistics that only 30 to 40% of refugees are actually placed in refugee camps. That means over 60% refugees are urban refugees. They live in cities, they might have work if they're allowed to work. They live in apartments, learn the language where they live, and if they have a chance, they try to apply for the resettlement. Okay, that's, we can skip another one. Usually when we talk about refugees and the processing of refugees in the United States, the first mentioning in the law, it was the Immigration and Naturalization Act, that it was in 1952, and then actually in Refugee Act of 1980, aligned international definition of refugee with United States